Evening, fellas. This is a recap of Session 3 Into the Abyss franchise opportunities. This session tonight, we had Bryn, we had Grolnar, we had Varda, who took the place of Helmet, we have Splug, and we have the NPC Doaki. So in this session, we pick back up with the adventurers, our heroes, who are still in the fissure underneath Telflam, as they are trying to locate the two missing watchmen, Corporal Tish and Captain Boot, that disappeared when they were investigating the fissure that opened up in the dock ward. So, in our last session, our heroes found themselves to a large open cavern, to which, after they went inside just a little bit further, someone eventually noticed a little goblin that was hiding, and he proceeded to kind of uh, indirectly threaten them with a very nice carved piece of driftwood that he was calling his wand of annihilation. I think someone saw through his ruse and eventually ended up kind of befriending him. They found out that he was brought here uh, with his, I guess, master, friend, whatever, Kerharn, a dwarf, and that they encountered something with tentacles in the room beyond. But Kerharn and his men rushed past it. This little goblin's name of Garko became frightened, somewhat scared, and he pulled back, waiting for his master's return. He also pointed out over here in the ceiling, the little yellow circle we got up here, is where, from the recent earthquake, some of these stalactites that are hanging up here are now cracked. And he warned the group that if they were able to utilize that to kind of maybe catch or damage the tentacled creature, that would be a good idea. To which they made note of it, but as you'll see later, they did nothing about that. So Splug decided to investigate just a little bit further into the cavern, but much to his eventual almost demise, he was struck by a tentacle that was up in the air 15 feet from something, and that tentacle also poisoned and paralyzed him. So once he was paralyzed, the creature on the ceiling wrapped him up in a tentacle and pulled him up into the ceiling and then retreated back. Everybody else kind of stormed into the northern section of this, started shooting the thing up on up near the ceiling. It did reach down another tentacle and actually paralyzed Doaki and pulled him up. He bit into Slug at least once, if not twice, with a pretty powerful bite attack while he was grappled up in his grips. But in the end, the group was able to take down this carrion crawler. Oh, sorry, just gave it away. This giant tentacled creature. They did notice when he dropped that several of his tentacles had already been cut off, but that didn't happen in their battle. So Kerharn and or somebody else may have already battled this thing at one point. There was a large pile of bodies over here in the middle section between the caverns, underneath where all the stalactites were now broken. They searched this pile along with Garko. Garko didn't see his boss or his dwarf friend Kerharn in there, so he decided to leave it. But they did find a magic longsword, a +1 longsword, and they also found like a backpack with some gold in it and a garnet worth quite a bit. I believe it was 250 gold pieces. They also discovered that I think Bryn cast detect magic, and Garko has a potion of healing, and he also has a magical scroll. The wand itself did not radiate magic, to which I think Bryn shared it to everybody, so everybody called bullshit on Garko potentially having his wand of annihilation that he kept calling it. From there, they decided to head out north again, start making some more checks, see if they could pick up on the trail. To pick up the trail, Captain Boot's already dead. They found him earlier. To Sergeant Tish, they're out now looking for. So they made their way into another cavern, and again was Splug in the lead. They found another cavern. Inside this cavern, they noticed when they came in, there was a giant, I say huge, like 20-foot cube foot that was suspended from the ceiling about 40 feet up. And I think it was Bryn that could see 100 feet up. She could actually see the ceiling about 80 feet up, but this giant granite foot was not being held aloft by anything. No rope, no chain, no anything like that she could see. So they were all kind of paranoid about that. Also, this room was completely filled all over the floor with like hundreds, if not thousands, of severed feet. Uh, One peculiar thing about the feet is there was no blood anywhere. So all of these feet are just like cut off, severed, broken off, whatever, but there's no blood in here. Just like hundreds and thousands of feet. Also on the north and southern wall, there were these strange runes that were in the shape of feet, and they were trying to discern what exactly that meant. So through a series of checks, like religion, arcana, whatever, and also I think through Garco, who was a part-time resident of the city they're in, Telflum, I think they figured out that this is some kind of a temple or a shrine or something to a god known as that who endures or that which endures. The name is kind of unclear. It's an old god or not very well known. But it's right up there in the category of like Merkel and Baal and all the really bad evil gods. So it had something to do with all these severed feet. Not really sure. I think at some point, I believe it was Bryn, even noticed like a foot just kind of fell out of the sky or out of the ceiling of the room and dropped right here again. So very peculiar things. So they were trying to figure out what exactly was going on here. They contemplated whether they want to just skip it or try to figure out what's going on. I think at one point, Splug grabbed one of the severed feet and he placed it into the foot-shaped rune on the wall, which nothing happened. And then Splug decided to take his own foot and put it into the rune. And when he did, the rune actually recessed into the wall and a sharp blade came down really fast. But he was able to pull his foot out in time, not lose a foot, basically. And once that happened, there started becoming movement underneath this giant pile of feet that's all over the room. As they started to swirl, and then movement went towards Splug and went towards Varda. And then they all watched as they saw a giant, not giant, a swarm of feet emerge, animated feet, undead feet, whatever you want to call it, emerge from here and start attacking. So one swarm engulfed Splug, another swarm engulfed Varda, and a fight broke out. Splug took a couple of really massive hits to the point where he eventually went unconscious. And they noticed as they kept hitting this large swarm, as part of it would die, more feet became animated within the floor, the giant floor covered of feet. So they had these small little singular feet to actually fight along as well. So they kept fighting, kept fighting. Splug was the only one that really got hurt pretty bad. And this swarm, he actually died over here, and then the swarm pulled him up into this area. And everyone watched as this giant granite foot came crashing down, about to annihilate our poor little Splug skeleton here. But it stopped about 6 inches above Splug's head and then slowly retreated back up. One thing that I guess the party noticed, or I just gave it away, Splug was the only one that went into the 4 different pools in the other trial room. Everyone else just got into one pool. So I think that has something to do with the reason why that big foot, giant granite foot, didn't basically smash Splug into permanent death. So that happened. Guys came in. They took out all the rest of the swarms of feet, the crawling feet, and then Wayne played a card. And we will resolve the final, I guess, outcome of that card in next week's session. But basically, Splug was about to get hit again with something else that would have probably killed him. But he played the card, which The group all watched as a ghostly image of a goat head formed up and around and over Splug's body, and then Splug and that spirit-looking thing just popped out of existence. So the rest of the party's not really sure what's going to happen, but meta-wise, the card was played so that when someone's going to die, they disappear and reappear again after a short rest in a dramatic fashion. So the DM Brian's got to figure out what the hell that's going to mean in the next session. After that, they searched the room as best they could, but couldn't find anything of value. And then they headed further into the tunnel to the east to find a good spot to kind of rest and recuperate some of their wounds. Oh, here's the card that Wayne actually played. So again, we'll resolve that when we come back in the next session. So the party's now getting ready to take a short rest. They did not finish a short rest because we resolved that in the next session before they head deeper into the fissure for their quest to find out what happened to Sergeant Tish and what caused this whole rift and earthquake to begin with. And so in 2 weeks' time, we'll get back together to resolve Session 4 Into the Abyss franchise opportunities. So there's your recap. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.